Hello there. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope you are doing well. Just messed everything up here. As always, I'm really happy to be here talking with you guys tonight about the season ahead. Now, I have to tell you, summer is, and hopefully you can hear me okay, summer is my absolute favorite season of the year. And that is in part because I typically am quite affected by the cold. That's something you're going to get to know about me. And so the summer is beautiful, it's warm, and I feel absolutely alive this time of year. And even though we're not quite in the summer yet, but you know, these are things that are really important to know about yourself because they can impact the choices that you have to feel your best, to feel like yourself. And so tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the summer and the sorts of things that you should be thinking about in order to keep yourself balanced and happy this time of year, regardless of whether it's your favorite time of year or not. So as I said, or as we said in the run-up, summer is a time when temperatures rise inside and out. And so I'll talk to you a little bit in this session about a few things that you can do, a few things to keep in mind in the summertime in order to keep your cool. I'm going to talk to you about a few different practices that you can undertake during this time of year. And then we had some wonderful questions. So I'm happy to answer whatever questions that you have about this time of year, and I've got some already, and I will be answering those. And if there are any other questions that come up during the session, or you have any questions at any time that you're watching this about summer and about the sorts of things that you can do during the summertime to feel great, because that's really what this is all about, and to maintain your health, feel free to throw those questions into the comments and I will answer them anytime that they come up. So let's talk a little bit about summer now. If you've been on with me on any of these sessions before, you maybe have started to get the sense that Ayurveda really wants us to tune into the qualities of things. So what are the qualities of summer? If summer's hot, which I talked about earlier. Summer has an intensity and a sharpness about it. And that usually comes along with heat or dryness or potentially even wetness. So if you're living in a place that can be hot and humid, there's a type of sharpness that you experience there. If you're living in a place that's hot and dry, there's a different type of sharpness that you experience there. So sharp, intense, hot, it could be dry or wet. These are typically our characteristics or qualities of the summertime. And so in order to maintain balance, we want to be taking these things into consideration in terms of what we're choosing. And typically that's going to mean choosing foods and activities and ways of being that are opposite to those qualities. And like all seasons, I have got a mantra for the summer season just to help you keep it at the front of your mind, just to help you keep at the front of your mind the sorts of things that you're going to want to do, the sorts of things you're going to want to choose, and the ways of being that you're going to want to embody. So my Ayurvedic mantra for summer is cooling, calming, nurturing, and moderation. Cooling, calming, nurturing, and moderation. So obviously the cooling is going to offset the heat that you're experiencing, because as the temperatures rise, what typically can happen is not only will we start to see things like skin issues, inflammation, hot flashes and things like that can actually turn up in the summertime as well. Acidity in the body. We also see changes in our attitude. So we might be a lot more easily angered or aggravated. We might be feeling a lot more things like envy and jealousy and condescension. Those are the sorts of things that can actually come up as well. So tune into this during this season to see if those are the kinds of things that you have a tendency towards when the temperatures turn up. So cooling is one, and as I said, that's sort of to offset that heat. Calming. So calming is us taking a proactive approach to the sorts of things that come up like aggravation, right? But it also applies to the sorts of foods that we eat and the kinds of activities that we undertake. We're wanting to take things that are going to have a calming quality to them, and we're going to want to undertake activities that have more of a calming quality to them rather than something that's going to be intense or something that's going to be overly active. Right, so cooling, calming, nurturing. Summer is a great time for us to really nurture ourselves, right? And that's because of all the things I mentioned before. And then moderation. What we tend to do when there's an intensity in the air is we overdo it, right? We overdo it. We push ourselves to the limit. And so moderation is something in all aspects of our lives that we're going to want to embrace in the summertime. So let's talk a little bit about some mental practices that you can undertake. Well, mental practices for summer would include things like meditation is wonderful to engage in the summertime. It would also include things like journaling. Journaling is terrific in the summertime. These are ways to potentially let off steam and to calm yourself a little bit. Physically, in terms of your physical practice during the summertime, you are going to want to do things like engaging in nature. So walks in nature are terrific during the summertime. Things like swimming, wonderful. Tai Chi, even this sort of slowed down movement. Anything near water is especially good in the summertime. Water just has a calming effect. It also has a cooling effect, whether you're in it or out of it. And so spending as much time as you can during near water in the summertime is especially good too. And then a practice for your soul in the summertime. One of the things that helps to keep us cool, which was a beautiful eye-opener for me when I first started practicing and learning about Ayurveda, is aromatics. So things that are aromatic, and by that I mean that have wonderful smells, can calm us, can cool us down. And so we typically want to engage with aromatics, and my favorite in the summertime is flowers, I should say flowers. And so I will typically keep a little vase of flowers on my desk in the summertime. And there's something really, there's a saying that you can't be angry when you're holding a cupcake. Have I said that? I think I probably mentioned that before. Well, flowers have a similar impact. If you're sitting at your desk and you're intensely working away, and then you look up or you smell this gorgeous smell, maybe it's roses or jasmine or magnolias are one of my favorites. All of these are really beautiful, and they have an incredibly calming effect for the mind and the soul. Another beautiful soul practice to undertake in the summertime to kind of offset the intensity is cultivating compassion. And how do we do that? Well, we do that by selfless service. So volunteering is a really good thing to do in the summertime. Or if you don't have the time to kind of get yourself organized to volunteer with a particular organization, maybe you can do something nice for someone you love or a neighbor. Bake some cookies or make a meal or something like that. Offer to do something really nice for somebody that you know or love, or even someone that you don't know. So random acts of kindness are really wonderful, particularly in the summer, to kind of help balance our summer mindset. The other thing that's really nice in the summer is using essential oils. Now, essential oils are really great throughout the year, but the ones that are particularly good for the summer are things like rose and jasmine and sandalwood. And lastly, one more soul practice for the summer, laugh. Laugh. It's a great way to let off steam. It's a great way, actually, it's a really good way to sort of cool and calm yourself. And it's fun. So why not? We should, we should definitely be doing more laughing all of the time. And so those are my tips for the summer. I'll just do a quick recap. So the mantra: cooling, calming, nurturing, and moderation. That's our Ayurvedic mantra for the summertime. Makes sense. Mental practice. We're going to try to maybe do some more meditation, and we're going to try to think calm thoughts, right? So observe when we have a tendency towards things like condescension or envy or aggravation, and see if we can counter those with love. Our physical practice is just spending as much time out in nature as we possibly can, maybe even near bodies of water, particularly good. And then the soul practices, I gave you lots, but my particular favorite is just keeping some flowers nearby, something that has a really lovely scent. And so if you have got questions, I would love to answer them. I had some come in early, and I will dive into those first. But if you do have any questions, feel free to throw those into the comments, and I will see them. I'm just checking on my computer just to make sure that I can actually see any questions. We had some great questions come in early on. So the first one, which I thought would actually be a really useful thing to kind of touch on anyway, but the first question was, what kind of meals should be our go-to meals for the summer? Terrific question. So what I typically try to do in the summertime is spend as little time in the kitchen as possible. And by that, I just mean cooking over like a hot stove or using oven, that sort of stuff. And so for breakfast, I typically would do things like a homemade granola is nice, with milk or soy milk, rice milk, any sort of milk can be pretty good. Fruit or avocado toasts are terrific. So fruit toast is really just toast, bread, with fruit on top instead of jam. So fruit toasts are great. Avocado toast, most people know. Avocados are terrific for summertime. They're heavy, they're cooling. They've got a kind of a sweetness to them, which means that they're quite grounding. So, and also coconut is terrific in the summertime as well. Avocados and coconuts are like the superfoods for summer from an Ayurvedic standpoint. And then also things like bircher muesli or overnight oats are really great for breakfasts in the summer. Lunch and dinner, I kind of always categorize these around the same because in Ayurveda we recommend that you eat your biggest meal in the middle of the day, and then you kind of go a little light towards the end of the day. So I usually kind of just lump lunch and dinner into the same category and let you choose quantities or styles that suit that big meal versus little meal. Salads, and this is great because most people do salads a lot in the summertime. So salads are terrific, incredibly versatile. If you feel like a salad is just not quite substantial enough, I always recommend throwing some things in there to kind of beef it up a little. So grains are terrific. Most grains are cooling, and so grains are terrific. Things like couscous and quinoa are wonderful accompaniments to wonderful grain accompaniments to salads. I also like to throw things into salads like roasted vegetables, whether they've been cooled down or maybe just still warm, rarely hot. I like to throw those things in. Sometimes dried fruit, cranberries are terrific for the summertime. They've got a little bit of bitterness and an astringency that is great for summer. And in my book, Eat Like You Love Yourself, I've actually got something that I'm calling the salad formula. And so it's a way of pulling together great ingredients for the summertime that can make a really great salad. So just kind of, lots of different ingredients that you can mix and match to make salads to suit the meal or the level of hunger, or even just what you've got in the fridge. The other thing that I would highly recommend, or as a go-to for summer, are things like Buddha bowls. So Buddha bowls typically will have a grain base. Rice, great. As I mentioned before, quinoa is really good. Couscous isn't too bad either. So it will usually have a grain base, and sometimes you can even do a really substantial green. So if you shred up some kale and you maybe do a little massaging of that kale with a couple of drops of lime juice and just a teeny pinch of salt, that can also form a base for a wonderful Buddha bowl. And then on top of that, you're going to want to throw things like roasted veggies are terrific. You're going to want to throw things, and you can even do blanched veggies, cooled down. Lentils and legumes, all legumes, so beans and lentils are really terrific for summer. They're cooling, they're drying, they've got a little bit of astringency in them. So they're terrific for summertime. And then if you're a meat eater, you would probably want to choose things like fish and, no worries, hiya. You probably want to choose things like fish, or specific fish, or things like trout, salmon, halibut. Those typically are better fish for the summertime. Most meats are heating, and so if you're a person who eats meat but you don't eat a lot of meat, I would highly recommend that summer be the time that you probably eat a little less meat. If I'm eating meat in the summer, it's usually going to be chicken and or fish. Red meats and red meats basically are typically a lot heavier and a lot warmer, and so I typically will stay away from those in the summertime, or I'll just eat a little bit less of them. You're going to definitely want to cut back on things that are super salty, that are fried, that are spicy. As I'm saying these words, I'm thinking of like carnival food, carnival food, all the stuff that you typically will eat on vacation. So you really want to be discerning in the summertime about the sorts of things that you're eating and sort of choose things for balance. Go for things that are easy to cook. As I said before, not spend too much time in the kitchen. And then someone asked about a child with eczema, and I think we've had questions before about eczema, and eczema is a difficult one because there's a lot of different types of eczema. But again, those things that I mentioned before in terms of the foods, you're gonna want to go for things that are in the summertime, at least, especially if the eczema flares up at this time of year. You're going to want to go for things that are a little bit cooling. So some of those roasted veggies are really good. Anything with kind of coriander. Coriander is an incredibly beautiful and cooling herb, and it's really yummy. So if your kids eat that, throw that into your salads. That's especially good. And typically just staying away from those fried things and too much meat. And dairy isn't too bad this time of year, unless that is something that can kind of mess with them. And again, with particular conditions, a lot of it is going to be is going to depend on the individual. So a lot of those things are really hard to answer in a general way. And then there was another question about any particular practices that we want to build into our daily lives to make the most out of summer. And I mentioned some things, like I think I mentioned, yeah, coriander's great. And sometimes if people have come to me with hives or skin rashes or, issues after being out in the sun, and I will often tell them to soak some coriander in water and just kind of lay that on top. It can be a bit of a green monster, but it's actually a really nice way of cooling the skin. Also, things like aloe vera are really good for that as well, which most of us know. So I did mention things like being out in nature, taking walks out in nature. All of these things are far better than a lot of your really intense practices. And I typically will say to people, especially the hot yogis out there, that summertime is probably a really good time to let go of your hot yoga for a little while and tend towards something not necessarily restorative, but practices that are just a little calmer and a lot less hot. I used to teach hot yoga so many years ago, and you come out of there and your internal body temperature is crazy. And so if you cannot let go of your hot yoga, please do something to balance it. So you're going to want to drink lots and lots of cool drinks, take cool showers, that sort of stuff to kind of offset that heat. Otherwise, you may end up with all kinds of issues. Who knows? The other thing that you would definitely want to focus on during the summer in terms of practices is ensuring that you're going to get enough sleep. So because we've got longer days in the summer and we have activities and things going on, we typically want to stay up late. And summertime can be a time when our sleep can take a hit. And so definitely focusing on making sure you're getting enough sleep. If you have trouble with insomnia, which is also can be an issue in the summertime, coconut oil on the top of the head and on the soles of the feet, a little bit, just a little bit, can help with that, can help calm the mind and the body. And then, of course, the old standard, which is hydrate. Make sure you get plenty of water. So I've taken up a lot of your time. If you have any questions, I'll hang out for like another minute or two. Otherwise, you can always put your questions in during the replay and when you have a look at this, and I will be happy. Or even if you think about something later, and I will be happy to answer it. Summertime for most people, at least in my experience, is just a really happy time. I know a lot of my happiest memories from childhood and adulthood have been summertime memories. So that is one of the reasons why it's really important to consider what you can do to keep yourself and your families happy and healthy this time of year. So with that, I will say thank you so much always for your time, for listening in. We're putting together another session for next month, and I will be talking a little bit about some of the stuff, about holidays and how to kind of survive those, and perhaps even a couple of other things. Oh, good. Thanks, Lainey. It's great to be on here talking about this. And so thank you everybody for your time, and I will see you next month. Take care, and if you do have, I'm in the group, so if you do have any questions about Ayurveda, regardless of whether they're about the things that I normally talk about or just anything in general, we're starting to hear more about it, throw them into the group, and I will be sure to check them out and to help you out. All right. Have a good night. Have a great week ahead, and we'll see you again soon. Namaste.